How you doing? So here are the top 10 most important champion in MCOC. Note, I'm talking about most important champions, not the best champions in MCOC. So why are they called the most important champions? Because of their synergies. So let's look at the top 10 most important champions in MCOC. So let's look at number 10. So number 10 on the list is Hercules. So let's take a look at Hercules. Hercules is top 10 most important champion in MCOC. He makes the list because of his synergy. So hashtag hero champions. While Hercules is alive, gain plus 15% attack rating while under the effects of poison from liquid courage mastery. So if your champion is hero and you're running liquid courage, effects from the poison, you gain 15% attack bonus. Keep in mind, this is a 6-star Hercules, so if you have a 5-star Hercules, that's only going to give you plus 10% attack bonus, and you need at least a 5-star to get that bonus synergy. And not to mention, Hercules is one of the best champions in MCOC as well, arguably the best champion on this list. So let's go with number 9 on the list. So number 9 most important champion on the list is War Machine. War Machine is probably one of the most underrated champion in the game because of his pre-fight ability. He is number 9 on the list of the most important champion in the game because of his pre-fight ability. Not to mention, he could also use his pre-fight ability as well as any tech champion in the game. With this synergy, you would say tech would have the best synergy in MCOC, just the first fight. So the problem with this synergy is, when it comes to pre-fight ability, is it does have its limit. So War Machine starts with, I believe, 3 in the fight, and then you could use all 3 of them if you want in the first fight. Or if it was War Machine, it depending on how many heroes he has on the team. So every time he wins a fight, he gains X amount of what do you call that? Armory boosts, including himself for each hero is on his team. So what happens is he gains like extra support. So if you're running damage mastery, you're gonna cleanse the charge from that, as well as gain energy resistance from armor rating, as well as gain extra attack, as well as debuff duration, not including stuns, from this tech pre-fight ability, which is pretty underrated, I believe, from War Machine, especially that he can access it all the time, depending on how many tech champion hero champions in your team. So let's go with number 8 on the list. Number 8 on the list. So let's go. It's Galen. 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 When it comes to his Herald ability, it's one of the best synergies in MCOC. So let's take a look at it. So what it is basically any cosmic champion, you can make them a herald. Galen does have to win at least one fight for this to happen. So if 0 victories, automatically if you're a herald reduces the potency of all power burn effects by 100%. So this is a great counter against vision, any type of vision, because they inflict power burn. Also, so basically it's not quite immunity to power burn, but it's almost the same because you're pretty much power burn effects have no effect pretty much. So Herald gain as well, if you won one fight, gains a 7% resistance to all damaging debuff for each victory, and if you win 2 victories, his special attack become unblockable if you hit an opponent's block, and it does have a 24-second cooldown. So the reason why I'm saying this is one of the most powerful synergies in the game, because I was able to auto fight Realm of Legends Vision with a 4-star Hercules. Auto fight using a 4-star Hercules, Herald Hercules, with this, and I wasn't even max victory. I only had 4 victories on my belt, so he couldn't even increase his victories more to make this even more better for Hercules. Keep in mind you do want to run damage mastery for the damage resistance to be any useful, because you're going to be healing from liquid courage. So let's go with number, what's that, 7 on the list. So number 7 on the list is Professor X. Professor X synergy can arguably be, what do you call this, higher on the list if you could start with 4 charges. Unfortunately, you don't start with 4 charges. You only start with 1. And you need to win 3 fights to get the most charges from Professor X. But if you do, you gain mutant class, not only mutant, X-Men class as well, gain 100% special attack bonus. Not only that, if you're running liquid courage or just in general, if you're up against any champion that inflicts poison, if you're not poison immune, you gain 72% poison resistant. 72. That means you'll be healing the entire fight if you have max willpower, or just pretty much any willpower really. And what else? It gains extra powers duration for any mutant class, as well as what do you call that? Kind of like a cheat death, similar to Heimdal, similar to like Angela and Hela synergy, where you lose like some of your health, and then if you have maxed the persistent charge with Professor X, you can gain up to 30% of your health back. What else? Extra power gain, as well as a mutant barrier, so that's gonna help mitigate a little bit of what do you call that, liquid courage and double edge if you're not immune to it. It's gonna make them heal as well with willpower as well, and as well as reduce damage from block. So let's see, that was number 7 on the list. So let's go with number 6. Number 6 on the list, I call him the Invisible Man because I still don't have him even till now, is Apocalypse, the Invisible Man. This guy is really just a game changer for the mutant class. Before he was in the game, you couldn't really decide if the mutant class was the best champions in MCOC, best class in MCOC. But when he came to the game, and with Professor X as well, not to mention, not to underrate Professor X, they're just completely game breaking. I mean, not so much game breaking, but game changing, you could say. For Apocalypse is also one of the best champions on this list and the best champions in the game. So for Horseman Cable, not even being a horseman, be able to like have no limit on his heavy attacks. Degeneration is so big for Cable. Not to mention he gains plus 150% potency for the incinerate debuffs when he throws his SP2. Truly a game changer for Cable. Not to mention if he's a horseman, any type of call drops, he beats them in like million health within seconds, possibly seconds, within millions of health pool. As well as Storm, man, you go to Abyss or even Labyrinth of Legends, he could do some serious damage with Storm as a horseman. Not Storm Pyramid X also is an underrated champion with the horseman ability as well. He could do some serious damage. Psylocke's another underrated champion that's pretty good power control and does pretty good damage as a horseman. Gambit, as a horseman, is also underrated. He gets this massive perfect block, and he also has this, obviously, with his special attack that he gains 50% being a horseman. So he can do some serious damage when he has 10 prowess on you. Really, probably one of the best synergies in the game is the fact that you can have perfect block once you have 10 prowess on the opponent, which makes him really, really a tanky champion. So let's take a look at that horseman ability. So that was just a synergy. I haven't even mentioned his horseman ability. So what does his horseman do? This is pretty much any mutant in the class. They become 100% bleed resistant, assuming they're not bleed immune. Well, it gains 50% special attack damage by 50%. So 50% increasing your special attack. That's pretty strong. Plus 30% of the offensive ability accuracy. It goes unblockable for 2 seconds for an opponent's purified debuff. This is a great counter for like skill champions who often a lot of them purified debuff, Once per fight, go unstoppable for 3 seconds. So that's kind of like a savior. When you mess up in a fight, you do get unstoppable for once a fight for 3 seconds. So that's number 6 on the list. So let's go with number 5 on the list. Number 5 on the list. This could be higher on your list depending on if you do a war. I don't do war, but if you do war, this could be a really important synergy with Magneto House of X. Let's take a look at what makes him so important in the game. I think this synergy is definitely, or pre-fight ability is definitely underrated. So what it is a free fight guidance boost. Magneto can spend 2 persistent charge at the pre-fight screen to place a guidance effect on the fight, which lasts until the defender is defeated. This effect don't stack and can only be used once by allies. So it could be used by allies. So if you're like in alliance war, this could be used by someone else from your team. So this is really nice. Like I mentioned, this could be higher in your list if you do alliance war. I don't do alliance war, but regardless, it's still going to be pretty powerful because you gain 15% attack rating. I'm assuming that will only should only affect like hero and metal champion. I don't know if it works again. It works for any other champion on the list if they're not metal or hero. I don't think so. But if you are metal and a hero, attackers triggers passive stun effects will parry mastery instead of debuffs, which gain plus 0.5 second duration. So really the most important thing is like it does give a passive stun effect if you're a hero or a metal, so that can be really useful if the champion can shrug up stun. So number is that 5 on the list? Is that correct? Yep, number 5 on the list. So number 4 on the list, it's Nick Fury. Where's Nick Fury? I don't have him as a 6-star. Nick Fury. Wow, I would say I use him probably not the most. So I would say second most champion that I use when it comes to my synergy team, because he's also good. There's no doubt about that. Definitely not damage mastery friendly though. That's the only bad thing about him. So he doesn't really do much for me by himself. But when it comes to his synergy, I use his synergy all the time because I run Liquid Courage and Double Edge pretty much all the time. So with Deadpool X-Force, any type of Deadpool, you gain that you purify the bleed if you're not bleed immune, and it will end up regenerating 10% of your health for 3 seconds. Also, that's really helpful for me, especially if you're running like some champions that are not neither bleed or poison immune, or just one of them. They're gonna shrug it up and he's gonna be regenerating some health to recover from like recall damage. So like Doom, I always pretty much bring Nick Fury and Deathful X-Force on my team, so he can purify the bleed and regen some health back. So when it comes to Quake or Ant-Man, I usually mostly use Quake. Quake is also pretty decent champion herself to get those 3 evade charges. These Black Panther one, I'm sure they mean something, but I don't really use it. So it's with Captain Marvel's team. Sure, that's probably important, but I don't use it as well. But I know Captain Marvel, this one right here, she does benefit a lot from it, and she's one of the best cosmic champions in the game. This one I don't really use very often. The Extreme Condition Kit, Power Kit, not either, but I'm sure they're going to be useful in the game as well. Mostly I really use just this first 2 on the list. Not to mention, as a hero champion, if he's not, he gains 10% attack rating for hero champions and 20% if Nick Fury is dead. So yeah, so let's go with number 3 on the list. So number 3 on the list, it's Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastico. Mr. Fantastic is one of those underrated champions. Definitely one of the best science champions in the game. Definitely I would say top 10 for sure. And not only that, when it comes to his free fight ability, it's also underrated. Probably the most underrated thing he has when it comes to his free fight ability. Keep in mind, this is only a 5 star. So what does it do as a 5 star? Where is it at? I don't see it. Where you at, son? There it is. Inflict a petrify of 35% potency. I believe this is a 6 star. It's going to be 40%. Suppress the opponents, decreasing their combat rate by 22%. If this was a 5 star, it'd be 25%. Debuff hyphen the opponents, increasing the potency of damage over time. Debuffs on them by 22%. If this was a 5 star, a 6 star, it'd be 25%, and reducing the potency of those effects on allies by the same amount. This does not affect ability that triggers at the start of the fight. Notice it says allies because any other champion in your team can be using too if you're in like alliance war or something like that. Definitely underrated pre-fight ability synergy with Mr. Fantastic. Keep in mind 7 stars will be coming in the game, so these could be much higher potency for 7 star Mr. Fantastic, because the higher the star, the higher the potency of each of the abilities when it comes to free fight ability. So let's go with number 3 on the list. And it happens to be both cosmic champions. I know, it's spoiler alert. Yes, it's cosmic champions. So when it comes to Odin, when it comes to his free fire ability, I think Odin is pretty much underrated himself. Especially if you have him on max hit, he can become really tanky, and he does increase his attack slightly, I believe, if he's at when it comes to, if he's awakened, and preferably be at max sig. But let's talk about his free fight ability. Keep in mind his free fight ability, anybody can use it in the game. Okay, this is so very useful if you need to have buffs on you. I forgot the exact rich gets richer, I believe that's what it's called, where you need a lot of buffs on you. So you need to have buffs on you, and this is going to be useful for those nodes, type of nodes where you need buffs. Also, with these buffs, he pretty much increases potency, but fury, armor up, and precision by 13% as a 5 star. And if this was a 6 star, it'd be 15%. Obviously, if it was a 7 star, 7 stars is coming in the game, it's going to be higher than that. Same thing with the protection buff. I don't even know if that actually works, but if assuming it does, it's going to be really powerful. So this is a 5 star. It loses 18% of your max health from a single source. So if this was a 6 star, it'd be 15% of max health. I'm assuming if it was a 7 star, it'd probably be like 12%, something like that, which is going to be pretty overpowered, assuming if it actually works. And that's not including I don't think it does include not including special 3. Each fight gain indefinite shock resist buff, increasing shock resistance by 80%. So if this is a 6 star, it'd be 90%. Obviously, if it was a 7 star, it would make sense. It would be 100%. So 7 stars is coming in the game. So if you ever get a 7 star Odin, or even like Mr. Fantastic, the potency will be much, I would say, stronger for sure. So he's number 2 on the list, and number 1 on the list is it's unfortunate, but if this guy gets a buff, wow. Heimdal, man, he's the least best champion on this list, but he's the most important champion in the game. Keep in mind, you don't need a 5 star, you just really need a 3 star. If not including act 7, act 6, 7, and 8, because you need at least a 5 star. But really, you just need a 3 star. You can bring into incursion, alliance war, any side quest, really any quest except act 6, 7, and 8. You're gonna be, this synergy is going to work for you. What it is basically saves you. So let's take a look at it. All champion except Heimdal, once per fight, Heimdal will intercept in your behalf. The first time you would knock on gain both an indestructible and indestructible buff, which lasts for 2 seconds. This is really a game changer. To be honest, I actually didn't even remember this synergy for, I don't know why, but I use it quite often, and I don't know why recently, used to be it would regen you like to 1%. Let's say you got knocked off with a special 3, it will only get you like to like health 1 or something. So if you take a block hit, you'll be knocked out unless it was a perfect block. So but now let's say even if you had 100% health and you like a opponent throws like a special 3 on you and it's supposed to knock you out, it's gonna revive you, uh, and give you unstoppable for what 2 seconds, and you'll be back at 100%. So maybe they fixed it or it's a bug, but that's why it makes it so powerful now. Because before they used to like when he uses his ability, depending on how much health you have, you would be back to, regardless of how much health you had. You're about to get knocked out, you would only be health 1. Now it depends on how much health you have to begin with. You start with that much health. Not to mention all his synergies with, Thor Ragnarok. You gain that 15% health back if you dash back, up to 15% health back. So if you're like, like health 1, that's gonna get you that 15%, and not as much if you're like at, you have 90% health. Of course, Heimdal gives you that extra fury against like Mr. Sinister in 6.2, somewhere around there in that chapter. Also, this one gives you that extra precision buff. Yeah, you do. This one is kind of helpful when it gives you an extra fury buff, like I mentioned for Mr. Sinister in Act 6 fight. So, really, really useful. Heimdall, he's the most important champion in MCOC. Unfortunately, he's not the best champion in MCOC. If he does get a buff, wow, this champion is going to be. You definitely want to have this champion on this list. Even if he doesn't get a buff, but if he does get a buff, wow. So, what are your thoughts? Who are the most important champions in MCOC? Thank you.